What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video, and we are going to be comparing Bob Quinn once again. Now, I just finished this. It took me 3 hours to do 3 teams. I did not think it would take that long, so I didn't look at the numbers or not much. I just kind of put it together, and I was like, let's just go into this. Let's react to it. I'll react to this. Kind of be like my first experience. Even though I did it, I still don't really remember what I did because I was just kind of like, so if I messed up a couple things, just, understand. I used the depth charts and stuff to try to figure out where these guys were, if they weren't on the team anymore, if they still were on the team. It's kind of hard to figure out because I don't know these teams as well as I know our team. Like, for me, I can just name a player and look at him and be like, okay, here's where he is, or if he's still on the team or not, if he still plays, if he's a starter. I can do all that stuff kind of in my head. The other teams, not really as much. So this one took forever to do, and I did pick 3 teams. We're looking at 2016, 17, and 18. We're going to be comparing Bob Quinn to other general managers or other teams and how they drafted, and whether or not Bob Quinn stacks up as a solid one or not good. Now, it was really hard to pick what 3 teams. You guys gave me some ideas, so I did take a couple of those from you guys and put them into this video. So the 3 teams that we will be looking at are the New England Patriots, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Denver Broncos. Okay, why those teams? Well, I looked up who were the best drafting teams that people know recently. Number 1 came the New England Patriots. Many people believe that the New England Patriots are the best drafting team, and I think that would make sense, right? If they are such a good team. So I put them on here just to see how great they really were and if we could compare to them. I also used the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I was suggested. I think it was the Steelers. And I also used the Denver Broncos because apparently they are near the bottom of drafting teams. So I thought I'd get a good mix there and we could kind of see where the Lions fit into those 3 teams. Obviously, I didn't do all 32. I probably won't do all 32. If y'all want to see that, I'm sorry. I'm probably not going to do it. But I do have 3 teams, that's close. If someone else wants to do the other 29, or actually 30, it would be 31. If someone else wants to do the other 28, I got you. I can react to that. But I'm probably not gonna do it unless y'all can find someone that actually did it. But whoa, it takes forever. It took me 3 hours, dog. Right, let's just hop right into it. Let's not even talk about it. So yeah, 16, 17, 18. If you guys did not see my video yesterday, please check it out. It'll help you understand what I'm talking about when it comes to Bob Quinn. But just a quick little recap. We looked at 16, 17, 18, not 19 because I don't think there's enough time to judge how these players worked out. 2 of the biggest things we looked at are whether or not the players that they drafted are still on the same team. That's huge, right? If you're drafting players that are no longer on the team, that's not really a good thing. Now, there are a few exceptions. Sometimes you make a trade. Sometimes you trade away draft picks. There are a few exceptions, but usually you're not trying to draft a guy to get rid of him, right? You're not trying to draft a player to move on from him in just a few years. A lot of these guys are still in their rookie deals. So if they're not here, they usually didn't work out with this team. Now, sometimes you're going to see some exceptions. Some players are good elsewhere and did really well elsewhere. It's kind of weird, but you'll get it. You'll get it as we go through it. So let's look at Bob Quinn. Currently on the 2016, 17, and 18, he drafted 25 players. And of those 25 players that he drafted, 15 of those players are on the team currently. So 60% of his draft picks in those 3 years are currently on the team, as well as 11 of the 25 draft picks in total are starters. So he's drafted 11 starters out of 25. Not bad, right? Well, we don't know. How do we know? We compare it to other teams, and I think you guys may be shocked by some of the results here. So let's just get right into it. The first team, like I said, is the New England Patriots. We have the Steelers, the Broncos as well. I thought I'd start off with New England, right? The top dog, right? That's what apparently they are, but it may not be true. We're kind of myth-busting a little bit here. Let's look at the top dog, 16, 17, and 18. Obviously, over time, they may be a better drafting team. I don't know. But at least for these 3 years, this is what we're going to be looking at. So I'll scroll through and kind of just fly through what we're seeing here. Let me not show you the percentages yet. In 2016, Cyrus Jones, they drafted in the 2nd round, Joe Thuney. One thing you're going to see with the Patriots that they didn't have a lot of picks. They had the least amount of picks, I think, of any team I did. They don't have tons of draft picks. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. They trade away early picks here and there. They actually traded away their 1st round pick, what was number 32. So like I said, they trade away a lot of draft picks. And one thing you'll see is at number 32, the New England Patriots actually trade away their 1st round pick 1 year to go get Brandon Cooks. So they do that. That's something to keep an eye on because Lions usually don't do that to go get a player, but it really just depends on your certain situation, what you think is going to be available. We also haven't won a Super Bowl before, so we don't know what it's like to sit at number 32. Anyways, looking at what they have done in their recent drafts, you can see Cyrus Jones, 2nd round, Joe Thuney. They get a lot of steals in 3rd. Joe Thuney kind of reminds me of the Graham Glasgow type of thing, but I'll let you guys look through that. The one exception here is Jacoby Brissett, right? He was a 3rd round pick, but now he's with the Colts, and he's actually their starting quarterback. So he may not have worked out with the New England Patriots, but he is a starting quarterback. I didn't even know they drafted him. I didn't know the Patriots drafted Jacoby Brissett. I'm sorry, I didn't know that. That's 2 quarterbacks that's good that they've drafted, Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett, and neither of them are with the team. That's just a mistake on getting rid of those guys. I know the whole Tom Brady thing, but wow. That's crazy. You've gotten rid of 2 potentially starting caliber quarterbacks. That's wild to me. So that's something that's super interesting. So yeah, they may be making better draft choices, but hey, again, if he didn't work out, I can't count that as a thing. I was going to count like, oh, if you're on an NFL team, but really I can't do that because think about it. You're not drafting a player to put him on a different team. Why would you do that? If you trade him, it's different. But if you just have a player, which they may have traded Jacoby Brissett, but if you're just like losing players, I can't count that. You're drafting a player hoping that he's going to, be on your team. And that's the only way I can do it, because if I go by players that are just on NFL teams, that's literally like every single player. Like almost every player is still on the team somewhere, at least a practice squad, so it's so hard to do that. So I just went by, hey, are they still on your team and are they starters? We're going to keep the same criteria. That way I don't have to change up anything from the Lions, and we can just kind of stay with what we did and what we learned in the first one. So as you guys are reading through this, you will see this year they didn't even have a first or second round pick. This is the year they traded them away for Brandon Cooks, and they traded away for Coney Ealy, which wasn't a great trade, but the Brandon Cooks one was solid. So you can see as I scroll through this now, the percentages, here we come. Isaiah Wynn here. The percentages look like this. The New England Patriots have drafted 9 players out of the 22 total. So in 16, 17, and 18, they drafted 22 players. Out of those 22, 9 of those players have still remained on the team. Again, there are a few exceptions here, like a Jacoby Brissett, but a lot of these guys, they're just not on the team anymore. So they may be drafting okay, but if they're not keeping around the team, maybe they're just not drafting for their team. So that's not a good thing. And only four of the 22 players they have drafted are starters. Only 18% of the players that they have drafted are still starters. Think about that for a second. That makes Bob Quinn look really good. Now, who's their many people don't even know who their GM is. It's actually Bill Belichick. He's the de facto GM for them. I really didn't know that until I started looking into it, so that's kind of interesting to me. Going round by round, the first round, they are 100%. They've only had 2 first-round picks in the last 3 years, so keep that in mind. Those 2 first-round picks were Isaiah Wynn and Sony Michel, 2 really good picks. In the second round, they've had 2 picks. Neither of them worked out. Neither of them are on the team anymore. Who are those guys? That's Cyrus Jones, and that is also Duke Dawson. In the third round, 2 of the 5 guys, they drafted 5 guys in the second round in those 3 years. 2 of those guys are still on the team. Only one of those players are actually a starter. That is Joe Thuney, who could potentially be a Lion, please. At round 4, we see that they have drafted 2 players. One of those guys are still on the team. They have not drafted a starter in the 4th round. In the 5th round, they've only drafted 1 guy, and yeah, only 1 player drafted in the 5th round. I didn't even realize that. See, you realize this stuff after you do it. That's Juwan Bentley. And Bentley's the depth linebacker. He was like a starter at one point, but he's kind of like a depth guy now. So he's still there, but he's not really a starter anymore. In round 6, out of the 6 players that they have drafted, 2 of those guys are still on the team. Only 1 of those guys are actually a starter, and I'm not sure who that is. Actually, I might have to look through this a little bit. I'm not sure who that guy is. Christian Sam is actually with the Lions. He signed a future contract with us, I believe. I don't know who the 6th round guy is that's starting. Let me kind of let's fly through this real quick. Ted Karras. He is the center for the New England Patriots. And then in round 7, they selected 4 guys. Only 1 of those guys are still in the team, and none of them have become starters. So you see, overall, their drafting isn't beautiful. I mean, it's not great. Not to be the best. They're not like, even if you take in the exceptions, they are not like that far ahead of what Bob Quinn is doing. So at least when we compare the New England Patriots, it's a lot different. Now, keep in mind, things are different. Why is it different? Because of this. This is the one factor that I have to take into account, but I really can't. It is that the success rate is different. They are a successful team, and because of that, a lot of their picks come later in the round. So when you just think second round, okay, what does that mean? Well, for the Lions, like this year, it's going to mean 35. For the Patriots, it could mean like 60. That's a huge difference. In the first round, they had the 31st pick. Us, on the other hand, we had the 8th pick. There's a huge difference on whether or not those guys will start. It's almost like a round of 4. So keep that in mind when you look through these. Yes, the Lions percentage looks better, but at the same time, the Patriots are picking so far back, and obviously every year they're good. So they have something going on there that's really good, but I do want to point that out. So if you were thinking that, I'll point it out for you. There you go. I mean, just keep that in mind. That is a huge factor, and there's really no way around it. So that is what it is. That's why I try to get 3 different teams so we could try to find a level here. Like Denver has struggled, and then we see, well, it's that for the Peyton Manning era, but that was a couple of years back. So now we will go through the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of another team that you guys want to see. You said they were a consistent franchise, and let's see how consistent they really are, all right? I don't know. Let's just hop right through, at least through the drafting. So 2016, you see Artie Burns, Sean Davis, Javon Hargrave was a 3rd-round pick. Man, there's so many good Is 3rd round the round to go? Like, I feel like round 3 is where you get so many steals. All right, I think Kenny got his 3rd-round pick, right? Kenny got Graham Glasgow, Joe Thuney. Now we see Javon Hart. I mean, it's crazy, right? You see kind of an ugly draft right there. TJ Watt, 2017 was a beautiful draft. I mean, look at this. TJ Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster, Cameron Sutton, who's okay, James Conner, Joshua Dobbs, who's not with them anymore, Brian Allen. It kind of lightened up with Juju, TJ Watt, and James Conner all in the same draft. All of those guys are playing for them currently. That is a great draft. And then in 2018, they got Edmonds, who's their starting safety. Mason Rudolph, who played a lot of quarterback last year because of injuries. So yeah, let's look at some of these numbers. So on team currently, out of the 21 draft picks, actually they might have the least amount. They have drafted 21 players in the last 3 years, and only 14 of those guys are still in the team. That's a high percent. That's 66.7 or 66 repeating. Okay, I didn't even put the math there because I hope I can do some of this math. That's 66%, which is actually way higher than the Patriots. Ours was 60%, so keep that in mind. Okay, ours is 60%, and I believe it's 44%. What is it? 44? Yeah, 60 and 44. All right, so let's get back to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure where we're going here. Oh, we're really messing this up. Pittsburgh also has only drafted 5 starters out of the 21. We have drafted 11. Now, obviously, again, circumstances change. If you're drafting players for a position, like if you're not good at a certain position, usually your guys are going to start right away because you're not good there, right? So there's not a lot of competition. It really just depends. So these numbers can be a little skewed, but I think it is something important to look at. I mean, there's really no way to be perfect about this, but that's what we'll try to do. So let's go round by round. In round 1, they have drafted 3 players, and all of those 3 players are still in the team, which is a good thing. 2 of those guys are starters. That is Terrell Edmonds and TJ Watt. In the second round, they have drafted 3 players. All 3 of those guys are still in the team. Only one of those guys, however, are a starter. That is Juju Smith-Schuster, who is a heck of a player. We all know about Juju. In the third round, they have drafted 5 players, and all 5 of those guys are still in the team. That's crazy to me. Round 3's got something about it, and 2 of them are starters. Round 3 is the way to go. We need to trade back for some round 3. We need to get some picks in the third round. I'm just saying, after looking at all this is crazy. This isn't just us, it's other teams too. Mason Rudolph is one of those guys. The 2 starters, I'm not sure who the 2 starters are out of here. Let me actually look real quick. Let's look through this real quick. Hargrave is the starter. I know that. Who's the other starter we got here? And Cameron Sutton. No, not Cameron. James Conner. James Conner. Well, kind of. He's kind of the starter, kind of not. I listed him as starter. You don't have to. In round 4, though, after this, it takes a dive. You can see not as many draft picks, and at the same time, none of these guys are working out. None of them are working out. So they are not a very good late round team. So at least we know now when the Lions are picking late, maybe it's because not many teams have success when it comes to after the third round. So they're valuable to have these high picks, and that's why trading back is so interesting to the Detroit Lions, because if we can trade back and acquire more picks inside the top 50, that's going to be huge, because obviously these players have a better chance of panning out. We need that this season. So round 4, 2 players drafted. Neither of those guys are on the team. Round 5, same thing. Round 6, same thing. And then round 7, they have 1 guy who is still on the team, and I'm not even sure who that is. I'm going to actually look at this one. That is Tyler Matovich. They actually said that he was a great player because he is a special teams player for him. So that's it. Yeah, so you can see percentage-wise, the starters, they didn't draft a lot of starters. They have drafted more players on their team. But again, it's still pretty similar to what Bob Quinn has done. However, Bob Quinn has probably had higher picks. If you think about it, this year has been pretty good. Except for the year they got Devin Bush, which was 2018. They selected at 10. We selected at 8. And then finally, they finished off the Broncos, a team that apparently can't draft at all. Let's really see how they stack up against our Detroit Lions. So let's start this thing off. In 2016, 16 wasn't the best thing ever. They had a couple of good picks, but not the best thing ever. Paxton Lynch didn't work out very well. He's with Seattle. Adam Gotsis, not a bad player. Defensive lineman Justin Simmons is now their starter at safety. Devontae Booker, they get a depth running back. They actually got a safety here, so you can scroll through those. In 2017, which I think is maybe the worst draft I've seen in a while. This is an awful draft. I'm not sure what happened here. Garrett Bowles is a starter, not a good one. He kind of reminds me of what Taylor Decker is. No hate to Taylor Decker, but they do say that he has struggled a lot, like make a break season. DeMarcus Walker, defensive end, has been a depth guy. Carlos Henderson is not here anymore. He's a third-round pick that's not here. That's kind of concerning. Brendan Langley, who is a practice squad player for the Seahawks. Jake Butt never really worked out. He's still technically on the team, so I think I do count him, but you don't have to. So there are 2 guys on here that are kind of interesting. Isaiah McKenzie is now with the Bills. D'Angelo Henderson is now no longer with them, and Chad Kelly apparently was just more problems than anything, getting in fights and stuff. So that 2017 draft was awful. That's why I put an F at the end of it, just to let y'all know that is awful. However, in 2018, not too bad. In 2018, they got Bradley Chubb, who was a starter until he had the ACL injury. Then they got Cortland Sutton, who is a starter still for the Denver Broncos, their best wide receiver, I would say. Royce Freeman, the running back, who's depth. Isaac Yiadom, who is actually a starter from what I could tell by the depth chart. Josie Jewell, the linebacker, who is a depth linebacker. Deshaun Hamilton is also a starter. He's like the 3rd starter, so I don't know if you want to count that or not, but that's what it said on the depth chart. Sam Jones, who's with the Cards. They got a lot of depth guys here. not a charter assigned, okay, and then we got David Williams, who's depth. So 2018 was pretty good. 2016 was actually okay, other than the Paxton Lynch pick. However, 2017, I'm not sure what the heck they were doing there. So let's look at these percentages. Now, I put 16 or 18. So they had 26 picks, and out of that, 16 or 18. Why did I put 16 and 18? Because some of these players, like the two that I'm really confused about were, I don't know who they were exactly. I think it was Keyshawn, who here was not on the depth chart, but they did say they were going to sign him again. So I'm assuming he's still on the team. And then there was someone else like that as well. So if you want to look at the low end and not count those guys, 16 out of the 26, which would be 62%, rounded up. Now, if you want to say that those guys are still on the team, that means 18 of their 26 picks were actually still on the team, 69%. So what I may be getting at here is not necessarily that we can look at these numbers too much. It's more that maybe because they're so bad, they're starting or they're playing more draft players. Think about this. They drafted 31% of their players that they drafted are starters. 8 out of 26, not bad. Let's look up here. Is this right? I'm just thinking of this on the spot, so this may not be true, but it may be. 5 out of 21. So, I mean, it's kind of similar. 5 out of 21, 8 out of 26. Maybe it's just because they're a worse team. We go round by round here. In the second round, they have drafted 3 players. 2 of those are starters. In the second round, they have drafted 3 players. 1 is starter. Third round, 2 starters came out of the third round. The third round has something about it, dog. I'm just saying. And then every round, it looks like they've gotten a starter in every single round except for round 7. So, take it how you want. I would say the Detroit Lions are doing okay when it comes to drafting. Not the best. However, they're not doing awful. Some of these teams are really bad. It's really hard to judge, though, because it depends on where you pick in the draft. And obviously, some of the worst teams are going to have higher picks. So we're not a great team. We haven't been a good team, so we've had high picks. We're going to have a very high pick this year. So you would think our first, second, and probably our third round should be all very good players. And then the later round picks as well, because those are still higher picks in the draft. So keep an eye on that. That definitely have an effect on some things. But again, maybe it doesn't take the draft to be great, because look at what the Patriots did. Look at the Patriots, man. They have drafted good, but they ain't keeping these guys around. Patriots do it a different way. They do a different thing. I'm going to have to dig into the Patriots more, but only 18% of their players are actually starters in those 3 years of drafting. And only 41% actually made the team. Only 41% of your draft picks are still in the team? That's crazy. I mean, those are depth guys I'm talking about too. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys take out of this. I put the numbers together. Y'all give me your thoughts. It's kind of confusing, but I've got to go take a nap. I'm tired, dog. This is a lot of information to type up, and yeah, I'm kind of worn out. So let me know your thoughts, comments below. What did you guys take away from this? I don't know. I mean, Bob Quinn hasn't looked terrible, I guess, but at the same time, hasn't been the best. It's hard, man. It's hard. Thank you, Pat, for watching, and I'm out.